Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Emerald Coast. We are a covenantal community founded on loving kindness and a common devotion to our free faith. I'm the Reverend Ruth Van Lillian, and I am honored to serve as the minister here. My pronouns are she, her. I bring you greetings from my home in Birmingham, where I'm currently on vacation and study leave. I want to offer a special welcome to those visiting with us today. We are so glad you're here. And a welcome to those who are joining us virtually as we stream the service. Today, we hope to touch hearts, to teach minds, to challenge spirits, and to comfort souls. May you find refreshment and restoration in our service today.
Please take a minute to look over the announcements in your order of service. We have a few special things. We've got some kudos to the Social Justice Committee and all the work they've been doing. They list when their next meeting will be if you're interested in joining them. We also have some new Tai Chi classes about to start with Amy as our leader. It sounds like fun, so check it out. There's a sign up at the back, too, if you're interested. We have several more things. A clipboard for RE. They are looking for teachers for fall. Volunteers, you don't have to come up with the lesson. You just have to be an extra pair of hands to help with the kids. And I am just going to start it up front and pass it around like we did for the summer volunteers. If you're interested even once a month or once in a blue moon helping out, sign up. While I'm doing this, Karen Lauer is going to come up, and she has another announcement.
Good morning. I just thought that this community would be interested in knowing that celebrating 38 years of serving the Jewish community, Temple Beth Shalom is having a ribbon cutting on July 19th from 3:30 to 5. The ribbon cutting will be at 4 p.m. If anybody would like to go and support the Jewish synagogue here locally, they would welcome you. They're going to have snacks and drinks and festive music.
After the service, everyone is welcome to stay for refreshments and conversation, followed by second-hour discussion groups. They are also listed in the order of service. Today we have porch swing here in the sanctuary to discuss what goes on here this morning, if you have more thoughts about it. Free thinkers in the library, and choir rehearsal in the harmony room right over here. Everyone is welcome to try out any of them, even if you never have before. Now the prelude prepares us for the service. Sandy Fowler is going to light the chalice for us. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each of us, no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means we're not alone in the work. We are not alone because of our promises to love one another. We are not alone because we are companions on the journey. We grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free, because none of us is truly free until we are all free. Well, the annual Unitarian Universalist General Assembly was held this year in June in Pittsburgh. Our fellowship was represented by Reverend Ruth and Jen Doyle, who were able to attend in person, and Joshua Moore, who attended online. Next week, you're going to hear some of their experiences, some of the big events that were discussed, voted on, but today we have something different. Today we have excerpts from the big Sunday service that they hold every year at GA. It's a long service, so with the help of all of our techno wizards, we have selected parts to share with you this morning. We begin with the call to worship by Reverend Mishra Marzetti, who is also the featured speaker. Reverend Mishra Marzetti serves as senior minister of the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Gathering at Three Rivers, the confluence of many currents, here we are today. The past few years for us Unitarian Universalists, and truly for all of us of whatever background and identities, have been challenging to say the least. We have navigated health-related uncertainties. We have witnessed the health of this nation also at risk at the hands of demagogues. We have witnessed war and genocide and floods and fires here in the United States. Economic uncertainty in these times has become a steadfast friend. First, the danger of a lockdown-induced recession, and then the risk of spiraling inflation. And if the state of our wider world weren't enough to make us anxious, the day-to-day realities in our local congregations might be making us so. Several years into this pandemic, some professional staff and lay leaders are feeling exhaustion from the nonstop pace of reinventing what congregational life needs to look like. Some religious professionals have retired and left their calling. Others have been pushed out as the strife and discord of the wider world have found at times expression amongst us. Some religious education programs have lost kids and teens. Some of our adult congregants have died or relocated to new cities and towns, or simply discovered over the course of the pandemic that they desire a different weekend routine. In parallel, high inflation has meant that what was previously affordable in our Unitarian Universalist communities might no longer be. We are living in a world that is vastly different from the one we knew just a few years ago. A world that has required change and adjustment for many of our Unitarian Universalist congregations. In faithful service to all that this new and different time needs, we Unitarian Universalists are learning to live with anxiety, at times, maybe even fear, that the continuing presence of uncertainty and change can evoke. Whatever today or tomorrow may bring, may we draw on the strength of our Unitarian Universalist faith to hold us and guide us.
Please stand as you are able for our opening hymn, number 360 in the gray hymnal, or the words will be projected. Here we have gathered. The time from all ages also comes from the General Assembly. Children are welcome to come forward, but I leave it up to you. It's going to be on the screen. If you want to see closer, come on up. It's called Whatever Comes Tomorrow. And Adam, if you're able, as soon as the story finishes, would you cut it off? Because she keeps talking.
How do we explain that, as Robert Frost writes, the best way out is through? Perhaps we can find inspiration in our story for all ages. Whatever Comes Tomorrow. Words by Rebecca Garden Levington. Shared with permission by the author and the publisher, Barefoot Books. Tomorrow may bring endless sun or swirly snowy skies. Tomorrow may bring new hellos or difficult goodbyes. Tomorrow may bring loneliness or laughter with a friend. Tomorrow may bring words that wound or ones that heal and mend. Tomorrow may bring changes that are scary, strange, or new. Tomorrow may bring chances to embrace your truest you. Tomorrow may bring obstacles that seem too hard to face. Tomorrow may bring feelings that will need some extra space. Tomorrow may bring questions that you have no answers for, or answers that may lead you to more questions than before. Tomorrow may bring anything you have no way to know, and sometimes that uncertainty gives worries room to grow. They sprout and bloom, consume your mind. You want to run and hide. But you've confronted fear before and reached the other side. You can't control what happens next, the what, the where, the how. The only thing you can control is you, right here, right now. You take a breath, you close your eyes, you whisper, I am strong. You tell those worries in your head, I know I can, you're wrong. And when tomorrow disappears, becoming yesterday, you'll know for sure you can endure whatever comes your way. Tomorrow may bring laughter, love, confusion, fear, or fun, an angry, rainy hurricane, or peaceful seaside sun. Whatever comes tomorrow, however steep the hill, you'll find your path, you'll journey on, you'll make it through. You will.
Hope is a choice, a commitment we make to not focus on the bad, but to focus on the positive, the good, the hopeful. Everybody take a minute to do what she said. Close your eyes and we're going to whisper together, I am strong. Ready? I am strong. Because you are, and so am I. Thank you for listening. It's time for sharing of joys and concerns. You're invited to briefly share events in your life by dropping a pebble into the bowl of water silently or speaking a few words into the microphone. We support each other in sorrow and celebrate together in joy.
An excerpt from Mental Fight by Ben Okri. Might we choose to make this time a waking up event, a moment of responsible, more wild, more loving, awake to our unsuspected powers, more amazing. We rise or fall by the choices we make. It all depends on the road we take. And the choice and the road each depend on the light that we have, the light that we bend, on the light that we use.
Will the greeters come forward to take up the offering? We have a tradition in this church of sharing half of all cash and checks that are not marked pledge in the memo line with a local charity. For June, our Share the Plate partner is Niceville Sharing and Caring. Sharing and Caring is a volunteer organization that meets the emergency needs of families in our area. They provide food, help with rent and utilities, school supplies, and other needs. Please be generous. And I also want to give you a heads up as to how this is going to proceed. We will do our song of dedication. The offertory music is from GA, and it has a very simple refrain that you will see on screen, but it's also listed in your order of service. So feel free as you start to catch on to sing that refrain with them. That's why the words are there. And then it will go directly into the sermon and directly into a responsive blessing. So.
So beautiful. Holly Nears, I am willing. Thank you, GA Choir. Thank you, our musicians, most especially our soloist, Amy Brabson. Thank you. Oh, my heart longs to know, how do any of us stay willing? How do we stay true to what we know, to what we value, and our commitment to be the people our wider world needs? The call to stay ready and willing to tackle whatever challenges may arise is such an essential quality for us as people of faith. And yet, that call often runs up against unexpected obstacles and losses. We can feel like we're on a road, on a journey, and we're no longer even sure where we're going. 15 years ago, I was much newer in my career as a Unitarian Universalist minister. And I'd just been in a congregational search on my way. Smitten with the congregation I was in dialogue with, I was convinced that this ministry was exactly right for me. However, I was not the candidate the congregation ultimately selected and called as their minister. I was devastated. What I thought was going to happen, what I believed was exactly right for me, exactly what I needed, would seem so strange. It dishonors those who have gone before us, so lift me up to the light of change. I knew that I needed to find my way back to open-heartedness, to a willingness to meet what life was giving me. I decided to go on a personal retreat so I could process my experience. The desert is a deeply spiritual and healing space for me, and southern Utah is a place that I have gone to again and again for such grounding and healing. There, I did this very Hindu thing that I wasn't even consciously aware I was doing. In traditional Hinduism, when personal needs are great, we often go to remote temples, ones that are often situated at the top of a mountain, for example. Such spiritual pilgrimages can include an arduous journey to the summit, to the temple, where we then pour our hearts out in anguish and prayer. Something about the physical journey itself allows for catharsis. At Zion National Park, I found the steepest, hardest climb, in this case, up the side of a plateau, and I began climbing it. The journey up that plateau that day was challenging, one of the hardest hikes I've done. But something in me knew I needed to do this, and so I pushed myself to reach the top. Once there, I was completely alone. I sat down, exhausted, and I wept. The grief wailed out of me, with only the red rock cliffs to witness and receive my pain. I cried out my disappointment. I cried for the loss of possibility, of a possible future. Just as those tears started to settle, a new round of grief seized me. Something deeper still was lurking. This pain was even greater. Underneath the ego bruising of not getting the job I wanted, I just felt so lonely. I hadn't even been aware of how lonely I was. But this deeper pain began to surface. I became conscious of it, and as I did, I began to pray through my tears. Okay, universe, so there's more learning and growing I need to do. I get that, but amidst all this hard stuff I need to figure out, is it too much to hope for companionship? Is it too much to hope for closeness and intimacy, for the love of someone who could support me on this journey? Offered in solitude to all of nature, to the sky, to the red rocks, to the earth, the prayer I didn't even know I was holding just emerged. Amidst all that was hard, all that was challenging, amidst loss and disappointment, I didn't really need the job that wasn't mine to have. What I needed to stay open and willing, as Holly Near invites us, was love and support. Similar to some of our Unitarian Universalist congregations are also experiencing pandemic-era losses and changes, losses in membership, losses in the attendance of children and teens, budgetary uncertainty, staffing cuts, and reconfigurations. If your congregation has been navigating currents such as these, you are not alone. You are not alone. How do we Unitarian Universalists remain open and willing to shine the light of our love, of our faith, in the midst of ongoing experiences of change, loss, and uncertainty? How do we do that as UUs? Our transcendentalist forebear, Theodore Parker, offers us this wisdom in a sermon from 1841, The Transient and Permanent in Christianity. Quote, "If we look carelessly on the ages that have gone by, or only on the surface of things, there is reason to fear. For we confound, we confuse the truth with the word of man. So at a distance, the cloud and the mountain seem the same." How do we distinguish between the wispy cloud, fleeting and ephemeral, and the heft and solidity of a mountain that can hold us and anchor us? On top of that desert plateau, the deeper thing that my heart ached for was love and support. Isn't this what we Unitarian Universalists are all about? Caring, which is love, which is the impulse behind all the justice and equity work that we do, and support, which we bring alive through relationship, through community. These are essential Unitarian Universalist commitments, UU values that have grounded us and guided us for centuries longer than our relatively newer statement of UU principles. Our UU history illustrates these values. When our intellectual forebearer, Spaniard Michael Servetus, was burned at the stake in Geneva for heresy in 1553, he died because he cared about freedom of conscience within community. He could have privately believed whatever he wanted to believe, yet he died because some part of him longed to have his unique and independent thinking honored by others in community. When Transylvanian Unitarian minister Francis David helped articulate the first Western Edict of Religious Tolerance in 1568, it was the impulse of love brought alive, a desire to nurture mutuality, relationship, and acceptance across difference. When Henry David Thoreau sat in jail in Concord, Massachusetts in 1846 for refusing to pay taxes to a government that legitimized slavery and war, it was a love of our shared humanity that fueled his longing for equity and peace. 19th century Unitarian suffragist Susan B. Anthony marched, organized, and politicked because she valued gender equality, and an expression of that was the right for women to vote in the United States. And in the early 20th century, Unitarian Frances Ellen Watkins Harper helped co-found the NAACP as an institutional expression of a value that Universalists through this day, the value of racial equity. This anchoring in deep, heartfelt values and anchoring in love and community remains our Unitarian Universalist calling card. It is the ground of being from which we have been contemporary national leaders in justice-seeking movements such as those supporting reproductive justice, marriage equality, migrant rights, and trans equality, to name just a few. Reflected in these commitments are our passion for, our collective commitment to the dignity and unique experience of every person, people who are already among us, people who are dear to us, people who we know in community. All we have to do is look at our shared history over centuries. As Unitarians, as Universalists, as Unitarian Universalists, we were not waiting on the sidelines for someone to invent a statement of UU principles in the 1960s. Drawing on our core values, we UUs have engaged with the arc of history for as long as we have existed. It is an arc not just of history, but one of forging, one of creating, one of building the history our hearts and souls have longed for. Pauline invites us to honor those who have gone before us, our UU forebears. We honor them by honoring the values that their lives illumined. For not doing so, to be adrift or lost amidst the needs of the world, to be hopeless would be so strange. Our reading this morning by Nigerian poet Ben Okri also invites us to ponder whether the time we are in might be a waking up event, a waking up to who we really are, to the light, to the fire, the flame within us. That light, that flame is given life week after week in our Unitarian Universalist congregations. This is where our values are made tangible at the local level, in community. I have one last story to share about a former congregant of mine. Her name is Debbie. I'm sharing her story, our story, with her permission. Over a decade ago, Debbie attended a Unitarian Universalist congregation for the very first time. Sunday services in that community included a time during which congregants could share their joys and sorrows, a brief sharing of personal celebrations or hardships in front of the community. Debbie chose that Sunday to publicly share with a room full of strangers that she had lost her job, that she had a special needs teenage daughter, and that she was on the verge of homelessness. With tears in her eyes, she told us that she had turned to every resource and local agency that she could think of, and while help was coming, she didn't know where lunch or dinner were going to come from later that day. As she wept and sat back down, she asked the community to hold her and her daughter in their hearts. To be hopeless would seem so strange. Yet how does one stay open and willing when you don't know where your next meal is coming from? Following the Sunday service, Debbie stayed for the congregation's coffee hour. I watched from a distance as congregant after congregant came up to her, offered her kindness, moral support, and in some cases, money. Over and over again, community members made sure Debbie and her daughter had what they needed for that day and for the days ahead. I could see how moved Debbie was by this, these spontaneous expressions of love, caring, and generosity left me feeling so proud to be a Unitarian Universalist minister that day. I followed up with Debbie in the week ahead and was able to offer financial support more officially from the congregation's ministerial discretionary fund. And what happened next was a beautiful thing to behold. In the months and in the years that followed, Debbie and her daughter joined that Unitarian Universalist community. Her daughter became a volunteer in the congregation's nursery, taking care of the community's babies and toddlers. Debbie found a job and enrolled in an academic program to become a clinical psychologist, a goal which she achieved. She specialized in supporting the mental health of gay, lesbian, bi, queer, and trans people. Debbie went on to establish her own independent clinical practice, and that practice has now become a training site for future clinical psychologists. In a recent conversation, Debbie shared with me that on that fateful Sunday, the first time she was ever in one of our communities, she says, quote, "Unitarian Universalism saved my life." And truly, it's done more than that. It has empowered Debbie in returning the care and support that was offered to her back out to the world many times over. We never really truly know what the future holds, do we? But we can allow the anxiety that accompanies uncertainty to be a catalyst, to be a waking up event, an event in which we remember and ground ourselves in who we truly are, in what our deepest commitments are. We are a people devoted to religious liberty, to justice, equity, and individual and collective healing and growth. We are a people of courage. We Unitarian Universalists are a people who have always been open and willing to rise up and meet the needs of the times we are in. For to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who have gone before us. And so we lift ourselves up to the light of change. The world may buffet us with uncertainty, yes, with pandemics, climate devastation, civic and social strife, and on. The list is long, and we know it. Yet grounded in the strength of our bonds with one another, there are no challenges, no obstacles that will keep us from shining our Unitarian Universalist flame, the light of our love, from the highest mountains, announcing to all that we are here, waiting to welcome others, you who may need us, you who may be longing for us, you who may never even have heard of us before today. Our love for one another and for the wider world is the beacon that has always guided this band of beloveds in the mighty and improbable work of bending the very arc of history. Remember how often we as a movement have succeeded in doing just that. Don't forget who you are. Don't forget who we are collectively. Trust the goodness, the light inside you. That is how we become the people our world needs us. Are open, we are willing. May it always be so. May I invite you to rise in body or spirit as you're comfortably able and willing. Oh, beloveds, those of us gathered here in Pittsburgh, take just a moment and gaze around this space that we have sanctified and made our own. This circle of beloveds that help bring alive the flame of Unitarian Universalism day in, day out. Those of you online and around the world, you are part of this circle and held in that love and in that flame deeply and well. We know the future holds more uncertainties than our hearts can at times bear. And yet we also know we can trust the depth and resilience of this circle. Its grounding in love, its courage, the proven fact that we have been ones to help shape and bend the arc of history in service to that love, in service to justice and inclusion and compassion. This is who we are. Go forth as you prepare to go forth from this General Assembly. Go forth knowing that wherever you may reside, keep bringing that flame alive deeply and well. And they are literally hundreds of thousands of Unitarian Universalists cheering you on as you do that. None of us is alone. We have each other. May it always be so. Blessed be. Go in love. Amen.
Toes tapping in a few minutes. It also is long, 5 minutes, and normally we sit through the entire postlude, but if after a while you would like to do your dancing back onto the refreshments in the coffee pot, you are very welcome to do that. It's called We Can Be the Light. Thank you for coming.